Homelessness in Canada is at an all-time high, affecting thousands of people across the country. The rising cost of living, a lack of affordable housing, and increasing economic inequality have led to a growing crisis, forcing people to live in tent encampments, shelters, and even on the streets. Many cities are struggling to cope, and despite government programs and local charities stepping in, the issue continues to worsen. In this video, we'll take you through 12 Canadian cities with the worst homelessness crisis. Some of these places may surprise you, while others have long been known for their housing struggles. Stay tuned until the end to find out which city ranks number 1 as the hardest hit by homelessness in Canada. Let's dive in. Number 12, St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. St. John's, the capital of Newfoundland and Labrador, might not be the first city that comes to mind when thinking about homelessness, but the crisis is rapidly growing. Due to its isolated location and struggling economy, many residents face difficulties finding stable employment and affordable housing. Unlike larger Canadian cities, St. John's has limited shelter space and fewer government programs to support those in need. The extreme winter conditions make homelessness here even more dangerous, with freezing temperatures posing serious health risks to those without shelter. Local organizations like the Gathering Place have stepped in to provide food, temporary shelter, and assistance, but their resources are stretched thin. A growing number of people experiencing mental health issues and substance abuse disorders are finding themselves without support, further worsening the crisis. Without urgent investment in housing and social programs, St. John's could see one of the fastest growing homelessness crises in the country. Number 11, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Saskatoon has been experiencing a significant rise in homelessness, with the crisis particularly affecting Indigenous communities. Many Indigenous people in the city face generational poverty, discrimination in the job market, and a lack of support services, making it incredibly difficult for them to secure stable housing. During the winter months, Saskatoon's temperatures drop to dangerous lows, yet many homeless individuals are forced to sleep in makeshift shelters, parks, and under bridges. The city has seen an increase in tent encampments, particularly in the downtown core and near the riverbanks. Shelters in Saskatoon are operating at full capacity, with many people turned away each night. Organizations like the Lighthouse Supported Living work to provide housing and mental health services, but the demand far exceeds what they can offer. Saskatoon desperately needs more affordable housing projects, mental health resources, and emergency shelters to address its growing homelessness problem. Number 10, Ottawa, Ontario. Despite being Canada's capital, Ottawa is struggling with a severe homelessness crisis. The city has one of the highest costs of living in the country, making it increasingly difficult for low-income individuals and families to afford rent. A large portion of Ottawa's homeless population consists of working-class individuals who simply cannot afford the city's rising housing costs. Many people who were once securely housed are now living in shelters, temporary motels, or even in their cars. The city's cold winters make homelessness particularly dangerous, with many individuals suffering from frostbite and other cold-related illnesses. Shelters like the Shepherds of Good Hope are overwhelmed, struggling to accommodate the growing number of people in need. Despite the city's efforts to provide affordable housing solutions, the number of unhoused individuals continues to rise, making Ottawa's homelessness crisis one of the worst in Canada. Number 9, Hamilton, Ontario. Hamilton has seen a rapid increase in homelessness, largely due to skyrocketing housing prices and economic inequality. Once an affordable city, Hamilton's real estate market has exploded, making it almost impossible for low-income residents to find stable housing. Homeless encampments are now a common sight throughout the city, especially in downtown parks and near transportation hubs. Many people experiencing homelessness in Hamilton are also struggling with mental health issues and substance use, making it difficult for them to access stable housing and employment. Local charities, such as Mission Services Hamilton, provide essential support, but their resources are stretched thin. With more people entering homelessness than exiting it, Hamilton's crisis is far from being resolved. Without massive government intervention, Hamilton will continue to see a worsening housing crisis, increased homelessness, and growing income inequality. Number 8, Winnipeg, Manitoba. Winnipeg is home to one of Canada's largest Indigenous populations, many of whom face housing insecurity and systemic discrimination. The city's high unemployment rates, expensive rental market, and freezing winter conditions make homelessness even more dangerous here. The city has a significant chronic homelessness problem, meaning many individuals have been unhoused for years with little hope of securing stable accommodation. In addition, Winnipeg is facing a rising opioid epidemic, which has contributed to more people experiencing homelessness. Local shelters, such as Siloam Mission, provide food, clothing, and temporary housing, but they are overwhelmed with demand. Long-term solutions, like affordable housing projects and better mental health care, are needed to address Winnipeg's growing crisis. Number 7, Edmonton, Alberta. Edmonton has seen a dramatic rise in homelessness over the past few years, with the city now home to thousands of unhoused individuals. Job losses, high rental prices, and insufficient mental health resources have all contributed to the city's growing crisis. The city has multiple tent encampments, particularly in the River Valley area and near downtown. Many individuals experiencing homelessness also struggle with substance use disorders, making it difficult for them to find stable housing. Despite the city's efforts to create more emergency housing units, the demand continues to rise, leaving many without shelter during Alberta's brutal winters. Number 6, Calgary, Alberta. Calgary is one of Canada's wealthiest cities, but it is also experiencing a significant homelessness crisis. The high cost of living, combined with economic downturns, has forced many individuals into homelessness. Shelters in Calgary are at full capacity, with long wait lists for transitional housing. The city has attempted to implement new affordable housing projects, but they haven't been able to keep up with demand. Without long-term solutions, Calgary's homelessness crisis will only continue to worsen. Number 5, Halifax, Nova Scotia. Halifax, the largest city in Atlantic Canada, is facing an alarming rise in homelessness. The city's rapid population growth, combined with a severe shortage of affordable housing, has made it almost impossible for many residents to find stable living conditions. Rent prices have skyrocketed, and the cost of living continues to rise, pushing many lower-income individuals and families into homelessness. One of the biggest challenges in Halifax is the lack of emergency shelter spaces. Many people experiencing homelessness are forced to sleep in parks, under bridges, or in abandoned buildings. Some have set up tent encampments in public spaces, which has led to increasing tension between residents and city officials. Despite efforts from organizations like Out of the Cold Emergency Shelter, the number of unhoused individuals continues to grow. The city needs immediate investment in affordable housing, or Halifax's homelessness crisis will only get worse. Number 4, Victoria, British Columbia. Victoria, known for its mild climate, has become a hub for homelessness in Canada. While the city's weather is less extreme than in other parts of the country, Victoria faces a severe affordable housing shortage, with rent prices soaring beyond what many people can afford. A major issue in Victoria is the high cost of living combined with low wages. Many working-class individuals simply can't keep up with rent hikes, forcing them into homelessness. The city has also seen an increase in drug use and mental health struggles, further exacerbating the crisis. Encampments in places like Beacon Hill Park have become common, as shelters in the city are overwhelmed. The local government has introduced new housing projects, but the demand far exceeds the supply. Without long-term solutions, Victoria will continue to be one of Canada's most impacted cities when it comes to homelessness. Number 3, Montreal, Quebec. Montreal, Canada's second-largest city, is experiencing a major homelessness crisis, worsened by rising rent prices and a lack of affordable housing. Historically, Montreal was considered an affordable city, but in recent years, rent costs have increased dramatically, leaving many residents struggling to keep a roof over their heads. The city's harsh winters make homelessness especially dangerous, with many people forced to sleep in subway stations or public buildings to stay warm. Shelters like Maison du Père and Old Brewery Mission offer support, but they are consistently full, leaving many people without options. In addition to financial struggles, mental health issues and substance abuse are major contributors to the crisis. The city government has invested in affordable housing, but many advocates say the solutions aren't coming fast enough. Without urgent action, Montreal's homelessness crisis will continue to grow, affecting more people each year. Number 2, Vancouver, British Columbia. Vancouver has one of the worst homelessness crises in Canada, and the problem has been growing for decades. The city's real estate market is one of the most expensive in North America, making it nearly impossible for low-income individuals to find affordable housing. Even people with stable jobs often struggle to pay rent, let alone those living in poverty. Vancouver's downtown east side is infamous for its tent encampments, drug addiction, and mental health struggles. Many people experiencing homelessness in the city battle substance abuse issues, particularly with the opioid crisis worsening each year. Shelters and social services are overwhelmed, and the city has struggled to find long-term housing solutions. Despite government efforts to create more affordable housing, the crisis continues to worsen. If drastic measures aren't taken, Vancouver will remain one of the hardest places to live for Canada's most vulnerable populations. Number 1, Toronto, Ontario. Toronto has the largest homeless population in Canada, and the situation is getting worse every year. The city's real estate market is completely unaffordable, with rent prices reaching record highs. Even individuals with stable jobs and decent incomes find it difficult to afford a place to live, making homelessness a growing emergency. The city's shelters are constantly at full capacity, leaving many people with no choice but to sleep in parks, on sidewalks, or in subway stations. The city has seen a massive increase in tent encampments, particularly in areas like Allen Gardens and Nathan Phillips Square. The rising cost of living, combined with a lack of government intervention, has turned Toronto into the epicenter of Canada's homelessness crisis. While there are ongoing efforts to build affordable housing, the demand far exceeds what's currently available. Without serious intervention, Toronto will remain the hardest hit city when it comes to homelessness in Canada. Homelessness in Canada is a growing crisis, affecting thousands of people in cities across the country. While local governments and organizations are working to provide shelter and support, the problem continues to escalate. The only way to truly address this crisis is through long-term solutions, such as affordable housing, mental health support, and economic assistance. If you found this video insightful, leave a comment below and let us know what you think about the homelessness crisis in Canada. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more important content. Thank you for watching.